Association. Have you taken advantage of this program by taking their classes? And if so, how many and which ones have you taught the classes?
Yes, I have taken advantage of that, and may I say that it is a good program, but I don't think that it's comprehensive. I can't remember who's taught the classes. I know I took one class under Ellen. It's basically where it's an open book class. You're told as you go through the class. The very first class I took was under Paul Crapo, who's a tax field auditor in Norfolk. And as you're taking the class, and this really helps your retention, you really need to know this. So make sure as we're reading all this material that you know this. Well, that to me is not development of your staff. Development of your staff, yes, it's a very good program. And may I say that we're all over the state taking that program, and we're still taking that program while other county offices are not getting any training at all. And I appreciate that, and I realize that that's something that we must do. But there's more to working in an office, working with the public, interacting with people, having phone skills, having computer skills that we need to do to develop our staff. It's not just about putting the little, okay, I have one more class to take and then I get a master's certification that I stick on the wall and it's this big so that when taxpayers come in, they know that I know my stuff. Well, that's not what staff development is all about. So yes, I have taken those classes, and they are something that will help you learn how to use the computer, how to look up the code, how to interpret the code, but they're not comprehensive.
Rebuttal, Helen?
Yes, we find the educational classes are very informative. I was the teacher of one of the classes that Brenda took. I take great pride in teaching these classes. It's a good overview. As you can tell, this is a big volume. It includes a lot of law that the clerks need a chance to learn, but in a day-to-day job that is very, very busy, it's easier to have them in a regular program of continuing education so they can get that education. They are tested exams that are proctored by the University of Virginia. And it is not a college degree, but it is definitely expertise in assessment specifically. The classes are offered in all range of assessment, and I look forward to having more of my staff take them as time goes on, because we do find them useful, and they know then what is allowed and what isn't. And also in other departments, they may want to know, they may not work in real estate, but if they take the real estate class, then they have a good working knowledge.
This is the last time we'll have the double rebuttals.
Okay. The state code's online. You don't need the book anymore. The county code's online. There's a policy library that you can just Google with a word. That's all included on the Virginia State Department of Tax site. So I will say that you can learn a lot by just going online, looking at the policy library, using the things that we already have in place. And you don't have to go through the book anymore.
Ellen, you want 30 seconds?
I don't think it's necessary. Everybody knows they've sat through a class. Is it easier to take it in a class and learn it all quickly in a day and a half, or take your time through your work day to go and Google 5 or 6 different things?
Ellen, your next question. Are spending items for the Board of Supervisors ever questioned by your office? And do you view it as a part of your job to recommend or advise the Board of Supervisors?
By spending items, I assume you mean things in the budget that are requested by other departments other than my own. That's not one of my job duties. As Mrs. Fristow has made it very plain, we put the money on the books. I am a member, an ad hoc member of the Finance Committee. We do question everything that has to go through the Finance Committee. Bill Orndorff and I are both ad hoc members, as well there are Board of Supervisors members and citizen members. And yes, as major items are expensed, those definitely do go through. Now, there are separate agencies that have their own processing and their own payment system that has nothing to do with what comes to the Finance Committee that I sit on, like the school board as an example.
Okay, Brenda, do you have a rebuttal?
No, it's the commissioner's job to assess and put it on the books, and they have their own budget. The commissioner has their own internal budget that they're responsible for. I do have one thing to say though. I was speaking about the state code itself. That book is online. You don't have to have the book in your office.
Sure.
And you can just go online and look up anything you want at any time. So
I couldn't bring that tonight, so I brought my copy.
Okay, Brenda, your next question. Explain how your specific life experiences would help you with this position.
That's a good question. I am qualified for this position. Everything that's happened to me in my life has brought me to the point. That's why I'm running. I have the experience with people. I have the experience with the public. I have the experience with the private sector and our business. I have the experience of 20 years having my own tax business. I have the experience as an enrolled agent status of learning the tax code. I have the experience as a tax field auditor for enforcement. And I have the experience as a taxpayer. All of those things combined. And I have the passion to make a difference in our county. It is time for us to have someone in there who will listen to us, who will be proactive as far as businesses are concerned. The one thing that businesses do not want to do is they don't want to spend their creative time trying to figure out how to be in compliance and fill out forms. If I'm a chef, I'm going to be doing my chef. If I'm a forestry person, I'm going to be doing that. If I'm landscaping, I'm going to be doing that. If I'm a lawyer, I'm going to be doing that. Whatever it is that I'm doing as a small business or a large business, I want to make sure that I know what I'm expected to do from the county, and I will do it. The majority of people will do it. But we've got to be pro-educational, and we've got to be business-friendly. And we can't just stay in our office and do that. We have to get out there and talk to the people and talk to the businesses and welcome them in. There is a way that you can speak to businesses even if they're out of compliance and say, you know what, you probably didn't realize this, but here's what you need to do. And you're going to need to do this because you've been here more than 1 month. You're going to need to go back and do this. And let's bring you up to speed. Welcome to the county. We appreciate that you're here. And we can have a welcoming environment and have people do what they're supposed to do. And then what does that do for us? It cuts down the supplemental bills because we don't have repeat people having problems over and over again. If there's a problem with a restaurant, we need to go out and say to them, hey, look how much money it's costing you in late fees, 10% in late fees. How many pizzas do you have to make to recoup that 10% in late filing fee this month? And when you say that to them, they go, oh wow, that's 25 pizzas that I'm doing for nothing because I won't file my form on time. So there are ways that we can educate the public to bring them into line in a way that's still respectful, that realizes they're there to do their job, whether it's a lawyer, a pizza maker, a builder, a landscaper. That's what we need to do in this county.
Do you have a rebuttal to that?
I do indeed. I already mentioned that we do that with our business people and with the filing of the meals tax and the business license. I have been a member of the Chamber of Commerce for some time. It's my pleasure as a member of the Chamber of Commerce to welcome new businesses that come in. Pat is here. She knows. She has seen me there. I take great pride in sending letters to opening businesses in the county and to visiting them. New manufacturers that come in, I take the tour through their plants. So I'm very proactive in welcoming the businesses and handing them the literature and explaining to them their requirements. It's not something new. I've been doing it for 17 years.
Okay, Ellen, your next question. There was a 158% tax rate increase from 2008 through 2011 on light industrial land use. Was your office recommending that, and how would that be justified?
The tax rate?
Tax rate for light industrial.
We haven't had that percentage increase in our tax rates ever in Frederick County. If you mean in the assessment of tax, light industrial is based on what people are paying for it. By Virginia code, you have to assess at 100% of fair market value. So our assessment is always at fair market value. And that's what we use, and we have been upheld by the state every single year. They have agreed with our assessments when they did their own check of all the purchases and sales that have been in Frederick County. They're arm's length.
You have a rebuttal?
Yes. One of the things that we have to be careful of, and I know that this is something that they're very careful of in the comprehensive plan, is we need to balance the different kinds of businesses we have here, whether it's retail or industrial or light industrial. And yes, we do have to put all of the, I'm sorry, I was distracted because Al's bleeding, I think. So we do have to make sure that what we do is accurate. The state puts out reports on how each jurisdiction did. And I don't know about you, but I don't think anything in the economy has gone up in the last 4 years. So I don't know how it was raised to 180%.
Okay, Brittany, your next question. What is the great tsunami that you foresee coming? And specifically, how are you going to prevent this from happening?
The great tsunami that I see coming, and we had better be prepared for it, is at the federal level. We cannot sustain the dollar amount that we have going on right now in debt. We cannot sustain the social programs that we have. We cannot sustain this level. So what happens when the federal government cuts the funding to the state government cuts the funds to the local government. And the local government is going to have to pick up more of these programs that they are not going to be able to support. So we had better be prepared. And one of the ways that we can be prepared is to go out there and make sure that we are welcoming businesses in, that we are where we should be with this light industrial tax rate, that we are where we should be with all of our assessments, that we are treating each business equally, that if you're a thriving business over here, that this business who is not complying over here is doing what it's supposed to be doing, and if it isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing, we need to find out why it isn't, and we need to help them fix that. So we've got to become more efficient. That is the tsunami I see coming. And what did you see when you saw those pictures of the wave coming in? I'm just amazed that people would stand there with their camera and watch it and film the tsunami coming in. But that's what we're doing. We have got to take the burden off our taxpayers and do what's right. And we can do that. The Board of Supervisors has, through the code and through the commissioner, this much margin. This is the low end, this is the high end. They can still be in compliance with the code, and it's the commissioner's job to say to them, let's take a look at where we are in our county. Who are we, and what do we want to do, and which one of these rates do we want to apply in different situations?
Yes, the Frederick County Board of Supervisors sets the tax rate based on what the budget is. As you all know, we have one of the lowest real estate tax rates around, and it is due to, in a great deal of thanks to the Board of Supervisors members that have held the lid on the spending in the county, regardless of what kind of expenses they've had to absorb because the state or the federal government hasn't set the amount of money that they had set before. I'm very pleased as the Board of Supervisors that they do that. I am not an advisor to the Board of Supervisors except to the extent of what my duties are. And my duties are to raise revenue for the locality, to do the assessment so that the treasurer can collect based on the tax rate that the board sets. And I do that, and I do it well, and I do it carefully.
Okay, Alan, your next question. When you came and talked with the Apple Valley Tea Party in February, you were asking about the TDR program. At that point, you failed to explain that you had researched TDRs along with other farmland programs in 2007. Can you explain your position on that?
I didn't examine TDRs in 07. They were very new then. I had examined other things, though, that were similar in real estate. I have always stayed on top of any of the new programs that were coming. Nowhere in Virginia have there been any TDRs in practice until this year, and there are 2 localities now that have them. There were some, though, in Maryland, and I did look at what had happened in Maryland and how they were using them. They were not used very much, but we did look at that. I always keep abreast of what is going on, not only in Virginia, but in any other locality where it may affect our own tax base and what is going to come out of your pocket.
Brenda, do you have a rebuttal to that?
Yes, when you looked at what's going on in Maryland, what was the fiscal impact of the tax assessment for these TDR programs?
It was very minor because they didn't have many people taking advantage of it. They had put it in place, but very few people were using it. It did not have a derogatory effect on their budgets.
Okay, Brenda, your next question. What sections of the code do you believe the county administrator and board of supervisors are uneducated and uninformed about with regard to their options supporting business growth and providing tax revenue?
Well, I like that statement, that question, because as Ellen was speaking, I was thinking about all the statements in the Winchester Star over the past several years where Administrator Riley says, "That's going to kill us. What's happening now?" And every time it's associated with Ellen coming back from the General Assembly, there's this reaction and this crisis mode. And you know, I'm a proactive person. I'm not a reactive person. A proactive person plans. A proactive person says, hey, you know what? They are considering taking away the business license gross receipts tax. If they do, here's what they're thinking. And Board of Supervisors, if they do that, here's what we can do. And here are the parameters in the Code of Virginia that will allow us to do that. Instead of just coming back with this reactionary statement. And I'm telling you, if you want to go Google Administrator Riley and you want to Google Ellen Murphy, you will see statement after statement after statement after statement of that's going to kill us. What are we going to do? And most of the time, it never happened. So we've got to go into them with, look, this is what's happening at the state level during session. And here's some things that we need to be prepared to do. If this happens, here's scenario number 1, 2, and 3. You then need to say which one applies to our county, to our personality, to who we are. That's what we need. That's what I mean when I say we need to advise them, to let them know what's going on, and to let them know what the code is. They don't have time to review the code. That's our job as constitutional officers. What's best for our taxpayers, what's best for our county administrators, and what is it that I can do to let them know what's happening in the world of taxation.
Ellen, do you have a rebuttal?
I'd be glad to. What happens in the General Assembly every year has a lot of impact on what happens in the locality. There are a lot of forces out there. You have the Manufacturers Association that wants all rates reduced on all industrial equipment. You have a certain set of lobbyists that are always trying to get the business license tax removed. Once a bill comes up for something like that, we all in government discuss it. Mr. Orndorff is very active in knowing what happens in Richmond. I'm active in knowing what happens in Richmond. Our Board of Supervisors and Mr. Riley know what happens in Richmond. We use our organizations and such instruments as VACO, Virginia Association of Counties, to give us a warning that such and such a person in the General Assembly, it may be a delegate, it may be a senator, has brought forth a bill that may eliminate this, or may change this, or may tie the locality's hands. It's called a mandate, and prevent the locality from, you know, taxing a certain thing. And you need to tell them that. They usually don't.
Hey, Ellen, your next question.
Okay.
How closely do you work with the Treasurer's Office to verify the need for funds, and what are the steps for disbursement?
Can you repeat that? I'm not sure about the need for funds, where that's coming from.
How closely do you work with the Treasurer's Office to verify the need for funds? I guess that would be a balanced kind of situation.
Mr. Orndorff doesn't even need to watch his funds. He issues the checks. I have nothing to do with that. He sees that the checks go out. What the balance is in that checking account is his business. We discuss the amount that is going to be billed every time bills are going to go out. And, you know, he knows what that amount is, and the county finance department knows what that amount is, so they can adjust this expenditure, and the Board of Supervisors can set the budget. It's all a very neat and clean process. I don't inform Bill of what his balance is. He knows what his balance is.
Yes. I think that there should be a close relationship with the treasurer's office. For example, if a large restaurant goes out of business, then it's our job to work with the treasurer's office to make sure that those meals taxes that were collected from the people that are held in trust are filed on the books and that he can collect. It's our job to put them on the books. It's his job to collect. The other thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that if there are any business licenses who have been applied for, but they have not been paid for, they're on his books. They're not on the wall of the business. We need to make sure that all of that is clean and that we work closely with the treasurer's office and we talk back and forth and we have a good relationship and we have excellent things that go in, because what we put in the computer is what shows up out of the computer when he puts it out on the other side. It has to be clean data.
Okay, Brenda, your next question. You have stated that the tax code might not always be administered fairly. If one business is paying its taxes and a competitor isn't, that's an unfair advantage. What business is currently paying its taxes while its competitor is not?
Well, that's confidential information. I cannot give that out. But I can tell you that there are lots and lots of them out there. And it's our job to make sure we find out why they're not filing on time. It's the treasurer's job to make sure that they collect. And the tax code, I would like to change that from the word fair to right. We are to apply the tax code in a right way, and everybody is to be treated equally. And that's what needs to be done. If I'm a business and I'm paying my tax, then I think that it's the job of the commissioner to make sure that if my tax is on the books and I'm competing next door to a restaurant, their filing should be on the books as well. And then the treasurer would collect that money.
Ellen, do you have anything to say?
She wants to do supplemental bills.
No, I don't.
That's what she was just talking about, was putting the money on the books.
All right.
We put the money on the books. Billy collects it. He has the highest collection rate of any treasurer. I have one of the best assessment rates of any commissioner. We work very well together. We see each other almost daily. Mr. Corbett, his collection agent, is over in my business license division frequently when they need to be, or my business license person is over there working hand in hand to make the collections. Wayne missed a come tonight, but he had something come up at the last minute. He would have been glad to have addressed that, I'm sure. For those of you that know Wayne, he is not low on conversation sometimes. So we certainly do that already. We work well together.
Okay, Ellen, your next question. Who sets the salaries of the Commissioner of Revenue's office, and how do your staff salaries compare to the Treasurer's office?
Some of my salaries are less than the treasurer's office. It depends on what the person is hired for and what their category of responsibility is going to be. A few of ours might be more than a few people in the treasurer's office. Again, it depends entirely on the responsibility of the person. Once the person is hired and an initial salary is set, any increases to that salary are a decision by county government, not by my office. We can request certain changes and certain increases for people. We don't necessarily get it. Of course, in these economic times, we have not gotten, the raises that I would like to see for my staff. They really deserve more than they're getting.
Brenda, comments?
Yes. You didn't answer the question of who sets the salaries for your staff.
I set on what I offer, on when I put a request out there to hire.
So you're not part of the HR system where there's a job description with a step and a grade? So
There are steps and grades, and that all comes within what HR has set. But it'll depend on the specific job duties of the person as to what I request them to
And
do.
what you need to know as the public is that she has the power to hire and fire on the spot, no questions asked at any time, because she's a constitutional officer and she can set whatever she wants to set. She does not have to be involved in the HR process at all. and her staff are all here tonight.
I really need to rebut an error. Okay.
Go ahead.
Not all my staff are here, and they came voluntarily. I did not request any of them to be here. But the amount that's set on these salaries is on a scale, and it is in the HR department. But constitutional officers do have the authority, she said. She's learned her code well. However, when I came in office, there had been someone in prior to me that did not treat their employees well. So I do have a grievance policy, and my people can go to HR.
Okay, Brenda, your next question. How do you propose for the county to make it easier for business owners to, one, pay their fair share of taxes, and two, file the necessary forms?
Well, we have to revamp the just launched website, which I know Bev worked really hard on, and I commend her for that. But it has to be more user-friendly. The website needs to be brought up to date. We also need to educate each of the different segments of businesses. For example, hairstylists are completely different from lawyers, and contractors are their own kinds of people in that sense as well. People who do, let's see, try to think of some other things. We need to make sure that each segment of business knows what they're supposed to do. Manufacturing is different than retail. Professional is different than manufacturing. So we have to pro-educate them. I think that we need to go out to the new businesses when they're here. We need to make a trip at least once a year to let the businesses know what's going on, what's changing the code. Also, we need to make sure that that website is user-friendly. You can use YouTube on, here's how to fill out a form. If you want to be in your pajamas doing something, if I want to learn how to knit, I want to go to YouTube and learn how to knit. If I want to learn how to fill out a business application properly, I can go to YouTube. There are all kinds of things. People use their phones to look at email all the time now. So we've got to keep up with technology. And as I said earlier, the IRS did it. They're more user-friendly. The Virginia State Department of Tax is doing it, and we need to do it in the county, and we can do it with our existing staff. She has an IT person that's under her domain. Use that person, and if they're not familiar with those techniques, then bring them up to date.
Yes, we have a much more user-friendly system than a lot of the localities around us. I'm surprised she hasn't upgraded the one for Winchester, which is not available at all. Our fair share.
That's not. I'm not in that position in Winchester. So.
Our fair share of dealing with the public online has been tremendously successful. We've had it in effect a very short time. They have been very successful in getting to it. We've had good feedback. Do we update it? Of course we do. We're always looking at ways to improve it. There are certain things within certain software systems that may be limiting, and we're continually getting those changed so they will be more and more efficient.
Okay, Ellen, your next question. In this room a few months ago at a public meeting, you were asked if you ever offered advice or opinions to the Board of Supervisors, and your answer was no, that these are very smart people. My question is this: do you feel the position and status of Commissioner of the Revenue is below that of the Board of Supervisors or the school board, or were you just stating your personal views?
I don't think it's below. And do I have conversations with them? Of course I do. As I told you, I'm an ad hoc member of the Finance Committee. Those of you who have seen me at many board meetings, and sometimes I do speak when it's necessary or it's something within my domain. I'm on a first-name basis with all of the Board of Supervisors members and can have a conversation with them anytime I feel the need to have a conversation with them, and I do that. Am I a, quote, an advisor because they don't know enough? No. I was criticized a while ago because I brought something back from Richmond and told Mr. Riley and got him all excited. Well, that's part of the advice. I had been in Richmond. There was legislation passed and put into the hopper the day I was down there that would remove the business license. So when you come back, you tell them that because they were not there that day. Okay? So there's an exchange of information. I do not consider I educate the board. We have a good board. I don't need to educate.
Rebuttal.
Of course we need to educate the board. They're not well versed in the tax code. Our job as a constitutional officer is to the taxpayers. That would be my